Thank you for all being patient. We're getting kind of a late start. I apologize. I'd like to call this meeting of our board, our February board meeting to order. Can we please stand for the pledge? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We are ready for item 3.03 on our agenda. Our superintendent comments.
Thank you, Dr. Towers. Welcome to tonight's Board of Education meeting. We're so glad you have joined us. We've got a good group tonight. I'm glad you're here and at home. I'm sure there's a lot of people. Mr. Shields watching us tonight, don't you think?
It's absolutely.
Let's start off with congratulations to the Hewitt family. Let's clap. Yes. Do you know what happened to the Hewitt family? Baby Arthur Matthew was born February 2nd in the morning at 5:40, 8 pounds, 6 ounces. That's number 3.
Did he see his shadow?
He did. Groundhog Day was on the hospital television all day. We watched it for 12 hours straight. So absolutely.
And the best part about it is that's number 3 for the Hewitt clan, and that means it is job security for the City of St. Charles School District. They're already populating our early childhood center, so
We're going to try to make a team.
we're ready for baby Arthur to come join us. And then we have a couple more congratulations tonight, so we'll just stay with it. Mr. Stan Fowler, please stand. Let's give him a hand. This, Stan, you can keep standing while I talk about it in just a second, but this is off script, but I will just say this. I think Stan, he has the record for coming to the most board meetings in a semester because we just basically, it was not very long ago, we made him our assistant director, and come July, he's gonna be our new director of transportation. And the lovely person sitting next to him can stand as well, please. We all know that Cindy Priest. Give her a hand.
Yeah.
She'll be retiring at the end of June, and thank you, Cindy, for everything. And Stan, we're excited about you taking over and keeping the great things that Cindy's done and moving us forward. So congratulations. Stan Fowler, everybody. Christy Litton, please stand up. Give Christy a hand, everybody. She is our new interim assistant principal at Monroe and Harris Elementaries. We're excited about Christy taking on her new role right here in the middle of the year. And man, she has had great transition from her classroom to this role. And we couldn't be more excited for her. And she's been a great teacher in our district for many years. And we're excited about her fulfilling that role for us. So Christy Litton, everybody. February is here, and we've had one AMI day and one snow day so far. Hopefully we can stay away from a stretch of inclement weather, and I am happy to report, yes, I watch the news and the weather reports like 24/7, and you can laugh because it's kind of funny. The good news is there's nothing coming in for tomorrow, which is great, so we'll be in session, and it looks like for at least a week, I'll be able to have my normal sleep pattern because it's going to be above average temperatures. Are you excited about that, teachers? Okay. We'll talk a little bit about snow days and things later on in the board meeting tonight. Just want to encourage us, since we are in February, that we are continuing to see respiratory illnesses, so make sure that people obviously stay home if you're sick. We want to make sure that we have great hygiene practices as well, as just to make sure that we're having those self-checks. And again, anybody can wear a mask at any point in time that they see fit. Winter sports, February into March coming up, will be districts for our sports. Wrestling's been great this year, and it was really a special night for our community. Last Friday night, the place was packed at St. Charles High. High and West played in basketball, and the girls' teams were great too. Great game. The High girls won. And then I tell you what, the West boys gave it a really good effort. But if you haven't seen the Pirates play, they can play some basketball. So It was a really great night to be there and be a part of the basketball. Also, shout out to St. Charles West. They just put on a play last weekend, and it was fabulous as well. So, Ben podcast continues, right, Mr. Chris Bennett? Yes, please tune in for those as well. And then we have a Board of Education election coming up here in April pretty soon. We have 3 board seats open. We have 5 great, highly qualified candidates. We're excited about that. And then tonight, we've worked hard to have some presentations and some conversations tonight on bond projects, library media centers, program review, instructional effectiveness of student achievement program review, policy changes, 2 resolutions, a counter revision, and then district financial report with a resolution. So we're excited about that. Just want to continue to encourage all of us to continue to work together and just make this the best place possible. And I think SCSD is a great place to work. So thanks to our teachers, our staff, our students, our families, and of course, our Board of Education. That's it.
Okay, thank you. Item 3.04 is board communication, and did we have anything? No, we have none of that. Okay, so item 3.05 is our audience comments, and Heidi, if you'll.
Yep.
Go
All
ahead.
regular and special meetings of the board shall be open to the public. Since the board desires to be a good listener and be responsive to the community, persons desiring to address the board may do so during the time so allotted on the agenda and according to established procedures. During the audience portion of each board meeting, patrons are invited by the president to speak for or against any proposal on the tentative agenda or on any other school concern. The individual is asked to identify him or herself, limit comments to 3 minutes, and avoid discussing personalities. The president reserves the right to limit the number of presentations and/or length of comments. At the discretion of the president, patrons may be recognized at other times during the board meeting. The board is very interested in audience comments. According to board policy, members cannot respond during the actual meeting. The board will listen to and research all audience comments. If necessary, additional follow-up will occur through district administrators.
Okay, thank you. We have 4 cards that have been filled out, and so the first one is Lauren Mertz.
Good evening. I'm Lauren Mertz, and I am the MSTA president. I am a teacher at Lincoln Elementary School. And with Valentine's Day being next week, I asked our members to share what they love about our district, their job, their students, or their school, and I have a couple of comments to read. One teacher said, "I love my coworkers, fellow teachers, support staff, substitutes, all of them." Another teacher at West said, "I love that my students are always excited to volunteer." One of my colleagues said, "I love our supportive administration and fellow colleagues." A teacher at Success said, "I love that my school, Success Campus, genuinely and obviously cares about our students' well-being every day, and we get to see positive changes in students who previously lacked hope." Another teacher said, "I love our ELA team and our collaboration." A teacher at Lincoln said, "Here's what I love, my students, the way they love and take care of one another. My district, the way it is big but feels small in a good way. My job, the way I feel like I make an impact on my students and their lives. And my school, the people I share it with." A kindergarten teacher told me, "My students are amazing, challenging, excited to learn, funny sponges whom I love and can't wait to see every day." A teacher at Harris said, "We love that we have a conservative district with good administrators." One colleague said, "I love how excited my students get about science experiments this year." And our last comment is, "I love the positive energy of the students and staff at Jefferson Intermediate School." So again, thank you for listening to our comments, and thanks for all your work this evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Lauren. Brendan Kearns?
Good evening, members of the board and central office staff. My name is Brendan Kearns. I'm the president of the St. Charles Education Association, the exclusive bargaining organization for the teachers' certified staff. I'd like to open by congratulating Harris Elementary kindergarten teacher Alexis Gorman, who won a $500 tuition grant from Missouri NEA. Winter months can bring the challenges of inclement weather, but our members are meeting the challenge by setting up successful activities for AMI days. These activities keep students engaged and on a strong learning trajectory, even when they can't be in school. Yesterday, myself and SCEA Vice President Jana Geiger traveled to Jefferson City as part of Missouri NEA's Capital Action Days. We took time to speak with our local representatives to let them know about the challenges education employees are facing. Among the things we discussed were open enrollment, teacher shortages and retention, and the EOC and MAP testing requirements. We hope that our engagement will help these politicians make decisions which benefit Missouri's public schools. Thank you.
Thank you, Brendan. Teresa Litskich, all the time.
Hi, I'm Teresa Linsnick, and I'm a parent of a graduate of St. Charles High. And thank you for all what you all do here for the students. I want to tell you, I read the agenda and for tonight, and I saw the Library Media Center's evaluation summary that you're voting on tonight. I am disturbed by the sentence on page 3, bullet point 4, which states, the library media centers are continually curating materials that are diverse to ensure that all students are represented in the materials available to them. This includes the purchase of diversity and inclusion materials for all LMCs as additional resources for the updated library media curriculum. Although this may sound harmless and actually inclusive of the diverse population that we have here at St. Charles District, I believe it can open us up to lawsuits. The phrase, to ensure that all students are representative, is a dangerous term as it puts a standard on the district that we cannot possibly meet. We cannot be held to this standard. We cannot possibly represent all 195 countries, nationalities, and combination of nationalities. We must not represent everything students choose in their personal lives either, because everything is not positive. I really think we are opening ourselves up for lawsuits, both from parents and the ACLU. Questions, how can we represent students engaged in objectionable acts positively, because you got to include everyone. How can we represent every exceptionalism in every student? And then something else is that many parents do not want their children groomed. They do not want gender confusion talked about until a child is older and not when they are in the imaginary stage. Kids are confused enough with so much media. The schools do not have to promote confusion as well. On the other hand, I do not want a lawsuit from the ACLU for saying one thing and then being held liable because we did not represent every student. I get it that we want to be a welcoming place for everyone and every student. I appreciate that. Instead of trying to represent every person and their life choices, we must stress more that we are all in America and value the unity we have in living in this great country we are in. E pluribus unum, out of many, one. So the action point I'd like tonight is the page 3, bullet point 4. And
Teresa,
it's,
You need to.
to wrap it up, I will. Okay.
One more sentence.
Okay, cool. Okay, so actually, basically, the LMCs are continually curating materials that are diverse to ensure that all students are represented in the materials, because we cannot really possibly do that. Thank you.
Thank you, Teresa. Karen O'Hearn.
Good evening. My name is Karen O'Hearn. I am a grandparent of 3 children in the St. Charles School District, and I've been meaning to get up here for a while. I live in the district. I have to praise, I've already had an opportunity to talk to the NEA people about this. I was so impressed with the COVID, the way that the district handled COVID. I was lucky, or unlucky enough to have to help my grandchildren a lot with the online teaching that was going on. And I can't tell you how impressed I was. I'm a 30-year retired educator myself, and it was just so impressive. And so thank you so much. Thanks for following the science. We didn't know what we were dealing with at first, and it went so well. I just feel like I needed to get up here and say that. I also want to thank the retiring board members for their service. I know there's 3 of you tonight, so thank you for that. And just because of some of the statements that were just made, I also want to thank the professional librarians and teachers who curate and select our books so carefully based on their expertise, their education, and their professionalism and their care for every student. So thank you. That's all I wanted to say tonight.
Thank you, Ken. Okay, that ends our audience portion. So we usually take a short pause at this point in our meeting so that any of you who need to and want to attend to other things this evening, you have a chance to exit at this time. And we will finish our meeting in about 5 more minutes. Take a short break. Okay, we're back. Item 3.06, do I have a motion to amend or adopt the agenda?
I second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion passes. Item 4.01 is our consent agenda. For efficiency, the school board utilizes a consent agenda. Items placed on the consent agenda are routine in nature, are among the many decisions that the board has already determined are in the domain of the administration. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda? I have a second? That's Gibson. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? All right, that passes. Item 6.01, we're going to be getting some on our bond projects. Jeremy?
Thank you. Chris, if you could pull up that document, that would be helpful to me. All right, so this is for that 2021 bond issue that we're continuing to work on. And if you guys remember, I think it was in December, we spoke about what the bond value was when we were able to cash in. And because people bought at a premium due to that interest rate, we were able to collect $54.5 million towards that bond issue. What we allocated at that time, and these were projections, was $47,840,500 in projects, knowing that there was significant potential for those costs to rise during this due to COVID, supply chain shortages, and worker shortage that the contractors are facing and continuing to battle, which, like I said previously, will be an issue in the summer, so this current summer. So if we could go to the next slide there, Chris. This is what we have so far, total spending, and that's the buildings that we have spent the money on. This has been in the works for several years, but you can see who is receiving the bulk of the money based on the projects that were laid out to the board several years ago, and that we're following some of that timeline. The Monroe project turned into be a very significant project. It's basically going to be a brand new inside of that building. So that's one to highlight. Both the high schools have significant money that were spent at their buildings as well. And a lot of that with the high schools, you're going to see that on many of the bond issues just because of the usage that those buildings undergo every single day. If you go visit a high school, you'll see that it's used 16 hours a day and on a lot of occasions. So you see both of those. We currently have, and in this projection, we have the 2023 projects included in that and the cost estimates that we believe they will land. So Knoll is a big project that will take about a year to complete. That projection right now, we do not have bids on that, but that projection total is what you see. Lincoln is another one that will have a projection on there for a kitchen and for a little bit of an addition to the square footage in order to accept that addition along with HVAC. We have Monroe Phase 2, that's included in that total dollar spent, as well as Coverdale, which is primarily all HVAC, as you guys know. 4 or 5 years ago, I can't remember what it was, 5 or 6 years ago probably by now, the inside of that building was gutted and basically redone. The skeleton was left, but the inside was done. So that's where you see the bond. What you will also probably note there is Hardin and Jefferson have virtually been untouched in comparison to their counterparts. So as we prepare to work with the architects on design, those are two buildings that will receive a significant part of our attention as we look at spending the remaining amount of money. Obviously, we want to get through the spending of the 23 projects that we have on the board before we begin to project for 24 building projects. But Hardin and Jefferson certainly have our attention as we begin to process forward. Chris, can you go next one here? This is just the percent allocations of where the money has been spent at this point in time, so just gives you a look. The one I didn't include, Benton, which was on the previous slide, and I didn't include the maintenance building, which was on the previous slide as well. Minimal amounts of dollars have been spent at those locations. However, we have spent some money specifically towards technology needs. That's primarily at Benton, which impacts the entire district. So, and the last slide here for us, Chris, spending scenario after the completed 23 projects. I just placed that on there to show you what we've allocated, what we collected, what we allocated, and then hopefully, best case scenario, this is where we land once Coverdale, Knoll, Lincoln, and Monroe are completed after, well, some of which after this summer Knoll will be a year-long project. It will go all the way into next year. If you guys don't know, it's getting a FEMA shelter onto that space, and that will take about a year to complete. We were fortunate with that particular project because some of the federal language associated with FEMA shelters has changed, but we are grandfathered in, and that specifically applies to HVAC requirements. So we did not have to spend more in order to meet those requirements, but that language is out there. We also have a little bit of a delay with that project as far as the bid goes, due to the city codes changing January 1st, unbeknownst to myself and the architects. We're just wanting to make sure before we proceed that we don't run into any code-related issues. We don't think that we are based on our language, our conversations with the city, but we just want to ensure. So we pushed that bid back 2 weeks, informed the advertisers about that, just to ensure that we were giving the contractors the best information related to the city code. So that's where we're landing. That's where we hope to land right now. And obviously, the rest of that projection, our focus will then go on to Jefferson and Hardin projects. Those are 2 big projects, though. 2 very, very large projects. And that should be it for me, unless you guys have any questions.
Wouldn't be bond stuff if I didn't have a question.
I was hoping.
So, just that last chart was kind of what, wanted to make sure I was reading it right. When I'm reading total projected, that's inclusive of what we've done up to this point, plus all of the estimates that we don't have bids back for or haven't put out to bid yet?
Knoll and Lincoln have not went out for bid. They're out for bid right now. So we have not opened any bid for those 2 projects yet.
Do we use the estimate?
I'm using the estimate right now just to ballpark the best that I can do. And the estimate comes from our architects.
Sure.
As I've said before, the architects will say we used to be able to give estimates that were very precise every quarter. And now they said, it may every week at best. So it's just the cost fluctuations are so drastic. It's, it's very, very difficult to project. But that's the best I could do in the current market that we're in. So a project like Knoll, we're anticipating 4.5. Once they start getting into it and we start getting some projection or some ideas on how they insulated the interior walls of that building, those costs could go up significantly. Those are just based on really what we know right now. So.
Okay. And inflation's wonderful. Yeah, go ahead.
Well, that's the key. And to your question, to his points, we always obviously want to give you updates on what's going on so you exactly know how we're spending the money. But it's very important to have these updates now because I don't want to say the market's volatile, but it's just you just don't know what to expect these days. Sure. With work shortages and all kinds of different things and materials and material costs. And so, we're making sure that our principals know exactly what's happening too, because they obviously this was a collaborative process with our staff when we came up with these projects, and we want to see those through, but things can tweak here and there because we have to obviously be careful what we're spending as well, so.
Sure. Well, I think it's good we've talked a lot of bond stuff, and we approved things and seen stuff. This is the first time that we probably have before, but it's the first one I remember where we actually tracked all of it together. So more than anything, I think it's actually a really good thing to see the numbers in comparison, because we have had some projects that have gone above already. Mm-hmm. We've also had some that go below it, but seeing them in different color charts next to each other helps show that, we still we're still kind of on track, right? We're below our allocation for our estimates. We've got some built-in coverage for inflation that we would never have predicted at the time. Plus, we even had some pad in before that too. So I'm gonna hope and cross my fingers that as we continue through next year and the bigger projects, that when stuff comes back in, we'll be able to maintain that number and still be fiscally responsible with the bond project money that we've gotten. And this looks like we've been doing a good job with it, so it's great.
Thank you. I think, it's a big effort, a lot on our contractors' part to ensure that they're, these school projects, you put a lot of demands on contractors. And, and I know they probably get annoyed with us at times by saying, hey, we need this project done by this date. And so they've been excellent to work with. Our architectural team have been fantastic as far as keeping us grounded fiscally. And so It's not something that is lost on me as far as the management of the money, but I think we're in a really good spot in listening to counterparts that are going through bond issues right now that had much larger and grander projects that are really concerning for some of the other school districts. So I'm very pleased with where we're at considering the market conditions.
Are we thinking about, if we do come in under, are we thinking about adding more things in, or if we come on over, are we gonna take a tough look at it? Or are we hard and fast in what we're doing now, or are we gonna try to be flexible, I guess?
No, I think if we come under, we certainly have some projects on our list that we didn't put prices next to, but were priority if we were able to continue spending beyond.
Okay.
I will say, I would be surprised if Jefferson and Hardin doesn't
I get it.
doesn't knock us.
That's,
Get it.
and
Those are the worst
I'm
ones that we
usually-
expect.
I'm usually a very optimistic person, I think you know that, but it's, and not to sound pessimistic, but we're planning on probably with some of these ending projects to still hopefully do them, but have to make some tweaks.
Yeah, but these first ones that we're doing are the bigger priority ones, and they're the ones that are gonna take longer and take the most, and will feel the most impact, so, yeah, that all makes sense. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
No other questions? Do I have a motion to approve the bond projects as presented?
I move to approve the bond projects as presented.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That passes. Item 7.01, our library and media programs review.
Hello. I am Tina Lauer, and I am here representing our amazing library media specialists tonight. And 3 of them are actually here tonight, and I'd like to introduce them. We have Stacy Gates from St. Charles West, Amy Brandis from Harris, and Beth Stegall from Null. And they are here. And we are just very excited to present to you all the amazing things that go on in our library media centers. So, oh, you already have that up. Amazing. Okay, you can go on. This is just a quote that I put in there because I thought it was cool. So,
I love that.
all right. So going through our board report, we just kind of pulled out some things to highlight. And this is our program description that MSIP does require that we have library media centers, and in accordance with that MSIP, we have a library media center in all of our K-12 buildings, excluding Success Campus, which actually can use St. Charles High or St. Charles West because of those students, in addition to Lewis and Clark can also do that. So we have electronic resources, we have traditional books, we have research things. We also have a lot of STEM things in there too, and it's kind of like the hub of every building. All right. These are our alignment with CSIP goals, and just to highlight one thing, again, the STEM resources. All of our libraries also are kind of like a makerspace in addition to being a traditional library where you check out books. Students go there, they collaborate, they do STEM activities, they build things in addition to research and other things. So also the Future Ready in the next one, we want to continue researching being a Future Ready district, and that was one of our CSIP goals previously, and that's also in our opportunities for growth. So I'll get to that when we get there. And that's about that. Chris, thank you. These are our program goals. These are actually straight from our curriculum rewrite that we did, and we will highlight some of those curriculum rewrites in our presentation. Our library evaluation results, we have aligned ourselves in the curriculum to the American Association for School Librarians, and also we were looking at the DESE rubric for exemplary library programs. And our results, previously we actually had the librarians take the exemplary rubric and kind of go through it and evaluate each library. However, things haven't really changed in the last 2 years, so we didn't feel like it was necessary to go through the whole rubric again. But we did want to highlight some things that are going on in all of our buildings. Differentiation is going on in all programs. All of our library media centers have a variety. Oh, can you go back? That's okay. Well, you know what? I have it right in front of me. It's just really small. I even have my glasses on, and I still can't see what's in front of me. I printed it too small. But they all have a variety of technologies and a learning space that allows students to explore. The majority of our programs indicate that they have adequate space for different variety of activities to be going on at the same time. And they are all inviting, promote collaboration, innovation, and creative problem solving. And they are also providing instruction on ethical engagement of multiple types of literacy, including providing a diverse collection of resources in response to the needs of the community and aligned to our district curriculum. And many of our librarians have also gone through the STEM TQ, which stands for STEM Teacher Quality Program, that is given through Washington University every year. And that is a K-8 program. Well, actually, it's a pre-K-8 program. But many of our librarians have gone through that program. And in all of our library media centers are in that same thing of we want our students to see mirrors, not windows, where they see themselves and aren't just looking through a window and not seeing themselves in what we do. So that is why we do that. Evidence of positive impact. We have, all of these next slides are aligned to the AASL standards. The first one is inquire, and in these pictures you can see how our library media centers help our students to inquire, think critically, develop strategies for problem solving. So you can see a couple of them are actually slides that have been in the classes come in, and our library media specialists actually show them how to research. And then we also have a lesson over here by Mrs. Mulich. And then we have some STEM collaboration going on. And as you can see, it's all about teaching our kids how to research and think critically. All right, next slide, please. Okay, include. And this is, again, another AASL checklist strategy here. And it's to give them an understanding and a commitment to inclusiveness and respect for diversity in the learning community. So you can see how we have our library media specialists include everybody in everything. And we've even got some curated collections there that you can see. All right. And this is collaboration. Our library media centers are a great place to collaborate. Our teachers come in with their classes. As you can see, we've got human body systems going on. On the left bottom one, that's from Hardin. They're actually learning about human body systems with Ozobots. And those are little bitty robots that they drew out the outline of the human body. And then they drew the circulatory system in there with red and blue lines. And then the Ozobots can actually follow those lines. And so it was a collaboration of human body systems and STEM in the library. And then we also have, that's the St. Charles West Library there in the middle, and that is a Romeo and Juliet trial going on there. And then you can see some STEM challenges and collaboration over a puzzle table. All right, thank you. Okay, and then this is curate. That is one thing that our library media specialists do best, is curate resources for our students on a variety of topics. And all of these pictures show that opportunity. That bottom one, that is a book tasting. So it's kind of set up like a little Starbucks cafe kind of, and they each get a chance to look at different books and write different things about them in just kind of a familiar kind of place. All right, next. This is explore. As I said, we have a lot of STEM into our libraries. We've got Lego walls, we've got maker spaces, and they're also Creating down in that left-hand corner, they're doing some engineering projects there as well. And of course, all of our elementaries and up through Hardin, I believe. Do you guys do book fairs at the high school? No? Okay. Well, up through Hardin, they have book fairs too. And so our students are able to explore all kinds of books, and then that also gives our librarians the opportunity to buy more books and resources for their libraries too. And then engage. So this is showing them how to be safe, ethical, and effectively use the technology and all that. Over here, we've got the choice board. St. Charles West is doing a winter choice board, and that just kind of gives them opportunities. They had a glow night over there at Monroe. And then over here on the right-hand corner, they're learning how to use the technology in a safe manner. All right, and then our opportunities for growth. We are continuing to work on streamlining a process to collaborate with teachers. And you saw a couple of the collaborations in there, but trying to get more teachers in there and helping them out as much as possible with their curricular needs. Work with the curriculum instruction specialist to provide guidance during curriculum rewrites or revisions. And again, continuing to investigate the possibility of going towards a future-ready framework. And that is online. That link there goes to the future-ready framework. And that is a framework that provides structure for all stakeholders in a school district. And review the library web pages and/or learning management system to ensure that they're up to date and contain necessary resources for student learning. Continue to provide students with updated materials, resources, and the physical spaces to best meet the needs of all patrons. Collaborate and establish relationships with district leadership, educators, and community stakeholders to develop library programming based on community and school needs. Work towards aligning to the Missouri Exemplary Library Program model for all libraries to provide students and educators full access to the library throughout the school day. And we realize that would take a lot of structure, but we want to throw it out there as a recommendation. Revise the library policy manual. We need to revise that because there have been some updated policies that have come out in legislation, and to make sure that we align our policy with that. And then to continue to advocate for intellectual freedom. And I believe that is it. Do you have any questions for us?
Me again. I just have one quick one, I think, because we go through a lot. I think the presentation itself is built around a lot of the ASL scoring criteria and stuff, and I know we also talk about DESIs with the library recognition scoring guide. I know all of those are separate indicators and stuff that we line ourselves up with. But can you talk about where we're sitting at kind of within each of those indicators, where we rate at from like the exemplary or meeting or whatever it might be?
So yeah, we did do the rubric 2 years ago and it didn't really change. We cannot actually meet the exemplary right now because of it's basically
The structure?
well, yeah, the structure, especially at the elementary level, the way that they're on an elective, like they all go there. So it would have to be a major overhaul, but they are meeting that expectation, just not at the exemplary level. So to meet that, there would have to be a big structure change in the way that libraries are done at the elementary level. But Jefferson and above do meet that. They have built, the classes come in when they need to come in, and it's open at all times for teachers to bring their students to. Does that answer your question?
It does answer my question.
Okay, good.
So I think the biggest thing is with this, right, we're talking about the summary of all of the great things going on and all of the hard work everybody's putting into them, right? When we talk about anything outside of this or improvements or changes, or if we wanted to score higher, a lot of that isn't from the presentation. That aligns more with what we do with policies and handbooks and the curation itself and things like that. Is that correct, I guess?
To get to that exemplary level,
It's
yeah.
not the summary.
It's not,
the other stuff. Okay.
yeah, it's not up to the library media specialist. It's beyond their control. So
Got it.
we put it out there, but it's,
Got it.
But yeah,
Thank you.
yes. Any other questions?
But I will say, we may not have met the exemplary standard, but just how inviting and how our library media throughout our schools are inviting, encouraging the collaboration, the problem solving, the kinds of skills kids need in this just generation moving forward. I love what we're doing. Yes, there's room for us to keep doing the good work, but, you know, libraries used to be such a shh, don't anybody talk kind of thing. So cold and sterile, and I love how inviting and how exciting, and kids want to be there, and we need that. And I applaud all the work we have done.
Yes, and that's because we have amazing library media
Yes.
specialists who allow all that collaboration. Give them a
Yeah.
hand, please. Thank you.
And a lot of that creative kinds of things you're seeing going on in there is, you know, the librarians are having to get all that put together, and yes, we applaud
Yes,
your
it
hard
takes a
work,
lot
but-
of planning to
Yes.
do all the things that they do.
And I think our kids benefit from all of that, so we thank you.
So
Thank
to
you.
that point, let's add this. First of all, I have the privilege of walking by or through and our libraries on a regular basis. The learning is just so active inside our libraries. It's awesome. But kudos to all of our library media specialists, sorry, not just librarians. But I will say this, let's not forget our elementary librarians, media specialists, a couple years ago have taken over the task of doing some of our social studies lessons as well, or some of those units. And I want to make sure I give them a kudos because I've seen those lessons and they're doing a great job with those.
And the
that-
curation of those books for those lessons were amazing as well.
And that added to their plate. And I just want to make sure I say something because they stepped up to the plate and doing a great job with that, and I see that. So I want them to know that.
Any other comments? Do I have a motion to approve the Library Media Center program as presented? Turn your mic on. Did I have a second? Okay, Lori Gibson. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? All right.
Thank
That
you.
program review passes. Thank you. Item 7.02, this is our student achievement report. Earl, I'm turning that over to you.
All right.
All
Tina,
right.
don't go too far. I'd like to invite our curriculum and instruction specialists up as well. We are excited to present the 2021-22 Student Achievement Report, which looks at MAP and EOC data from last year's state exam. So we're going to jump right into it. Chris, can you go ahead and scroll to the second page? There you go, yep. So this is just a reminder of our student different demographics here in the City of St. Charles School District. As you can see, from 2021 to 22, there was relatively no change in our student population. You have the breakdown by ethnicity, and then also our percentage for English learners, our free and reduced lunch status. I will say with those numbers are off because last year, as you know, we had free lunch, and so a lot of our parents who really qualified didn't fill out the forms. So we're hoping to see that change for this year, and we'll very likely see a higher number, a higher percentage than we have over the past couple of years. You see our gifted student population, our special education numbers are just below 18%. Homeless student population, 1.15%, and then our foster student is a little bit below 1%. Next up is the infamous MSIP 6. So this is the first year of DESE's rollout of MSIP 6. For those of you who don't know, MSIP is Missouri's accountability program for school districts. And so this is how you obtain your accreditation status based on the MSIP 6 standards, or based on the MSIP standards, and this is the 6th rollout of that, so there we get MSIP 6. Our APR, which is our annual performance report, and our accreditation status will not be released until March 7th. And we've been going kind of back and forth with the state, or the state has been going back and forth with themselves on when they are going to release this data. It was originally supposed to be in December, then it was January, end of January, and now we've heard March on the data. But I will say this, when it comes to our APR and our classification, it's changed this year. Historically, under MSIP 5, 100% of our score came from student performance. Now, there's two components. 70% is based on student performance, and even within student performance, they look at achievement, and they also look at student growth. And so those two pieces make up your 70% of student performance, and then you have that 30% continuous improvement, which includes our CSIP, which includes survey data that we send out to all of our stakeholders, including parents, students, staff members, and then also response to standards. So there are narratives that they're kind of like essay questions that they give us, and we have to write to talk about what we're doing as a district in order to meet that. So we submit all of that, and then that will give us our score for the continuous improvement portion. I will say this, we are anticipating that number just across the state, our APR to be lower than we have seen in years past. Because it's new, we don't know all of the metrics and the formulas that the state is using. So we do anticipate that to be a lot lower than we've seen in years past. And so when that comes out, of course, I'm going to share that when it becomes public knowledge.
And can you explain too what that looks like for the next 3 years? Because this score is not
Yes.
necessarily indicative of what we're gonna actually have for our APR.
So one of the things with MSIPs is that it's now a 3-year look, and so this is just year one. So while we might get a score for this year, it will be an average over the next 3 years, which will give us kind of a better picture of where we are as a district, and also that continuous improvement. So it'll be covered over a 3-year period and not just this 1 year. Although we will get a score for this year, we'll get one for next year and the year after, and then they'll average together to give us our APR and accreditation status. Does that make sense?
And just like other districts in the region of the state, we're just all trying to figure out how this is all gonna play out in terms of what the point systems look like and really because it's totally different than MSIP 5, and we've been waiting for it, and the communication's been a little off in terms of what it looks like. So we're expecting a lower score this year, but obviously then we have 2 years to make sure that we grow from there, so.
And I will say the growth is the newest component that we really don't understand what formulas they're using to calculate growth. And so I know when the state ran numbers this summer, we were originally supposed to get this data in August. And when they ran the numbers in August, it was not what the state was hoping they would get. And so they originally told us that they weren't going to release growth data at all. And then they came back and recalculated and told us December, but it still wasn't ready. So with it being the first year of rollout, there's a lot of confusion. And there's some hiccups and bumps in the road that as a district and as a state, we just need to get through.
And we understand that this is the first year of a change in how they evaluate districts and measure all of our, the scoring. And we understand, or at least as the audience or as you explained, that numbers are going to look different. But still, people compare a number to a previous number, even though it's a different measurement. And
Yes,
it's apples and
yes.
oranges, but still, they'll look at some number and say, oh, my goodness, it's different than it was last year.
Than it was last year, absolutely. And it will be different. It will be
Even
different.
if it was, wow, look how much better we're doing, that's another false indicator. Or look how, the numbers, it's difficult to come up with accurate information when they keep changing how they measure it.
And we've been discussing this since the last summer with you all, just because every superintendent, every district in the region and the state have been concerned about what this is gonna look like moving forward. And again, though, our realities are reality, so we've obviously got enough scores to share some things with you, but most of it's embargoed to March 7th.
Yeah.
And we are moving forward and have a good plan moving forward to getting that score higher as we move forward with our growth.
So what we do have for you is our achievement data, and so that's what we're going to be sharing with you today is the overall achievement data. So first up is attendance. As you can see, attendance really across the nation, student attendance across the nation is really low post-COVID. And ours isn't any different. We are not happy with those numbers. And so what you see there, that 77.7%, that is what we call a proportional attendance. So the state looks at the percentage of students who are above 90% attendance. So what that number is showing us is that we have 77.7% of our students above 90% attendance. Okay, so that's not our average daily attendance rate. That's always a lot higher. That's the number of students or the percentage of students who are above 90%. And so as we were above the state average, it's still, that's not anywhere where we're used to, what we used to see pre-COVID. We were in the upper 80s. And so that has just dropped statewide, nationwide.
Okay, so for gifted participation, as you can see on district from the left and state on the right, we're right in line with the state. One thing I do want to add that I'm super proud of our district is when we did an equity audit of different programs, as you guys may remember me talking about last year, we found a huge discrepancy in specific populations of our students that did not match what the state required or suggested. So they suggest that our demographics match our programming, and ours did not. So we overhauled our screening process. So instead of the gateway to get tested being a teacher referral or a parent referral, we tested all kids in 1st through 6th grade. We did a universal screener. And as a result of that, we had 111 students move on and qualify for gifted services. So that was very eye-opening for us because we were missing a lot of kids. Even better is 27 of those students are students of color. So that equates to 24% of new students in the gifted program are students of color, which matches closer to our demographics, which is 34.8%. So we're getting there. So that's a super proud moment for us in the gifted program.
So graduation rate, so there's no secret. We know that our graduation rate could use some work. We're sitting at 85.2, and while that has grown, that is up from the year before, it is still, in my opinion, significantly below the state. And so that's something that we are very aware of and that we have been working to address specifically this year. Chris, you want to scroll down one more? So this just shows where we were as a state, broken down by ethnicity. But scroll down one more, please. So this is what we've been doing to address graduation. So this work kind of started last year with my predecessor, Dr. Tormala, and with the former principal at Success, where the plan to restructure the Success program to make it a true alternative program. Before, Success was a half-day program that was strictly for credit recovery. So kids went there for a half day to recover credits that they lost. Now, and we had about between 30 and 35 students who attended a half-day program at Success last year. This year, we have worked to make that true intervention, true alternative learning for kids who the traditional high school just doesn't work for. And so with that being said, we're looking at about 64 students who are there full-time now, well, who are there either full-time or half-time. So we offer full-time programming at Success, which we didn't before, and we also offer part-time. We have freshmen who are now entering the program. We have 10th graders who are now entering the program. And so with that, with this YES program, we are able to catch students a lot earlier and get them through so that they will graduate with their cohort of peers on time. That's the true goal. And so we're hoping that with the restructuring of Success with that part, that we'll see an increase in our graduation rate, but also with Missouri Options. So for those of you who don't know Missouri Options, it's almost like the former GED program. This allows students who are not on track to graduate with their peers because of significant credit deficits to be able to graduate off of a credit-based program. So they're not on a credit-based program. They test through 5 different tests: reading, science, math, writing, social studies. They have to still come to school. They have to do community service hours. They have to have a job. And with that, they're able to continue to graduate with the St. Charles High School diploma with their peers. So we have a slot for 24 students, and that is full. I'm happy to report that last year we had 13 students graduate with a Mo Option certificate. This year, we've already had 10 graduate, and we're only, a little over halfway through the school year. So those are things that we're working on in order to improve our graduation rate. Included in that, we have the reentry school. Reentry school is for students who receive long-term suspensions. It allows them to come to success for 2.5 hours so that they don't fall behind on their schoolwork. We also have credit recovery. We still have credit recovery, but that's pushed back now into our high schools. So St. Charles West and St. Charles High, they handle the credit recovery program. We have summer school that we offer, and we will offer that again this year for credit recovery. And then, of course, with your help back in October, we did change the passing grade percentage as well. So we're thinking all of that we should definitely see a drastic improvement in our graduation rate as a district.
And you probably already said this, but I just want to make sure that with all of this, we also have recovery in the high schools.
Yes.
That you already mentioned that,
Yes.
sorry. And the other piece too is with the, you guys will see it as res, because I'll put it on there. But even our students who might find themselves in a long-term suspension, we'll either have them for res or we will put them in a virtual learning
Yeah.
program to make sure that we want to make sure that they can continue to move forward towards graduation.
Yes. Chris, you want to go to the next slide, please?
Okay, this is us against the state again versus where our graduates go. And as you can see, ours match up pretty evenly for 2-year college, 4-year college, and post-secondary technical education, employment, and military. And for this, I want to give a kudos out to our high school counselors because they have to send out a survey after the students graduate to get that information of where did they go, and they get almost 100% participation back. So they really do, if they don't contact them, it's like, oh, well, then let's contact your parents. Let's do this. Let's get that information. And again, you can see that ours matches up pretty evenly with the state on that.
And I will say, this is also configured in that overall APR that we'll get from the state. They do require districts to solicit this information, and you receive points on the number of students who actually return that information to you.
And then Chris, okay, yeah. All right, so also our ACT scores, let me put my glasses on here. Our average composite score was slightly above the state this year. It is at a 21.6 opposed to the 20.3. And it has been pretty consistent the last 3 years of our composite score. We have been trying to put some things in place with the new ACT prep curriculum and things like that. But I did want to shout out to, we had one student in December who earned the perfect ACT score of 36. And this past school year, we had 13 students who scored in the highest score band of 33 to 36. So yeah, kudos to them.
What students' ACT scores from our district are taken into account for this?
So they always do the senior cohort. So they are looking at the students who graduated this past year and what their, they just take an average of what their highest ACT score, because some of them take it several times, and they will take their highest composite score and average that.
Okay, so now we're going to get into the overall MAP and EOC data. I realize these numbers are small, so I will read them for you as well. When you look at this, if you looking for from the right to the left, the darkest shade of blue, those are the percentage of students who are advanced. The next color, percentage of students proficient, then basic, and then on the far left, the percentage of students who are below basic in those different grade levels. So as you will see, when it comes to our math MAP achievement, that our students, St. Charles students, outperformed the state really at every grade level when it came to math. So in third grade, we were looking at 49.3% proficient in advanced in St. Charles School District compared to the state that was 39.7%. Fourth grade, 49.3% proficient in St. Charles. State was 43.4. Jefferson, 37.3% proficient in advanced. State, 36.2. Sixth grade, 43.8%. The state was 41.6. Seventh grade was 51.6% proficient. The state was 37.5. Eighth grade, 45% proficient. The state was 31.8. And then in algebra, 46.9% proficient, and the state was 41.9. In addition to that, the state gives classification titles based on our overall MPI, our MAP performance index. And so target is the highest rating that you can get. Below target would be on track. Below on track is approaching, and then the lowest category that you can get as a district is floor. So when it came to math for our district, we were sitting at a 384 MPI, which put us on track. And then also, there's a new category called student group. Student group is a combination of all of the state's historically low-performing students. So that includes our students with IEPs, ELL students, our African-American students, and our free and reduced lunch population. So that becomes one group. They become one group. And so our students scored a 343, which is on track as well when it comes to math. We know as a district we have work to do when it comes to math. We have identified some challenges and what we are doing to address those. And so that's why I'm gonna have Nicole and Jessica kind of talk about the challenges that we're seeing when it comes to math, and then what we're doing to address that.
So some challenges at the 5-6 levels, geometry and measurement continue to be our lowest scores. They have historically been. Although the strand is taught consistently through our daily calendar math, something that we hit on in little bite-sized chunks every day, we've had significant drops from 4th grade to 5th grade, so that transition is really hard on a lot of our kiddos, that they bump down a level. And then across the board, 3rd through 6th grade still struggles with strategic thinking, which a lot of the questions on the MAP test are higher level strategic thinking.
Good evening. So at the secondary level, from grades 7 through 12, we are still working to ensure fidelity across both high schools, and then ensuring that our students that are going from 8th grade into 9th grade, and some of them are going either from a Algebra 1 in 8th grade on to the next level, or they're staying in an 8th grade math and going on to Algebra 1, that transition is succinct and the students are prepared. So we are making progress there. As you will see in the report as well, they are increasing. We are continuing to ensure resource fidelity. So those resources that were approved, making sure that the professional development is rolled out properly and that the teachers are using those resources with fidelity with their students. The areas that we do see our students needing improvement on, again, that's up there in standards, involving operations, polynomials, and functions. So again, these are some of the items that are very finite, but those are the areas that we are seeing across the board, 7 through 12, the students are needing more reinforcement.
So some steps that we are planning to take to help improve math achievement is first our summer refresh. So this is a committee of teachers that served on the original curriculum rewrite, who've sat through all the training. We meet every summer. This summer, we will really be looking at those geometry and measurement units that we are teaching to see where is the breakdown, where can we tighten up our lessons and make sure that it's vertically aligned, and then have vertical discussions between our 4th and 5th grade teachers to see where we can tighten that up. We continually do instructional rounds with the C&I team. We're in classrooms, talking to each other, talking to the instructional coaches and principals, giving them feedback. We have map data team discussions, analyzing and looking at this data across the district to see where we can help improve these scores. There's targeted professional development in best practices planned for this summer and going into next school year. We are going to continue the inquiry approach to learning. So this is that strategic thinking. We know it's hard for our students, but we're not going to give up on it. We're not going to lower the rigor because they're not doing well on it right now. We're going to continue the PD, continue to have really high expectations for our kids and help them get there. We will continue Tier 2 interventions through our RTI model. Having interventionists and learning loss teachers is really helpful in that regard. We are working with an Ed Plus consultant, K-12, in the area of math. She will be walking in classrooms with us, looking to see what kids are doing, listening to the lessons, and helping us come up with some ideas of how to improve things. And then a book study for building thinking classrooms in mathematics will begin this summer.
And as Nicole just mentioned, we are doing a lot of work K through 12 to ensure consistency and vertical alignment. But just to highlight some of the things at the secondary level because obviously there is a difference in the way that we approach things. In our summer refresh, our teachers go back and they look at the curriculum and they look at their different core units. So because we have different courses at the secondary level for students, those teachers have a bit of a different set of problems in what they need to identify as what they need to focus on for the students next year. So that's what we will be doing in our summer refresh, and also sharing more ideas with those teachers. They are looking at you. If you walk through the classrooms right now, you will see a lot of the inquiry-based learning, and it's wonderful to see at the secondary level because we are changing that paradigm. And that's something, especially when we get our students at that higher level, we want to see them doing a lot of the inquiry and leading that inquiry. We're seeing that. So I challenge you to go into those classrooms and see some of that. It's pretty great. We are also, in our PLTs and the PLCs, we do review the data, we look at the CFAs, we look at the CSAs, and looking at the student interventions based upon the data. So you're going to see a lot of that at the high schools now, which is great as well. We do have the math interventionist as well, so we thank you very much for allowing that. That is helping a lot, along with the instructional coaches at the secondary level. That is helping greatly. And then professional development through Houghton Mifflin, and we are going to be having that coming up this semester. And as Nicole stated, we also will have that Ed Plus consultant as well. Also, we are linking student-led instruction to success data. So again, that student-led inquiry. When students are leading the conversations in the classroom, we are seeing in math a lot of those connections are being made. The other piece I want to highlight here, we are bringing in a lot of reading strategies across the curriculum in the secondary level. And we have a consultant that is coming in, and she's already worked with some of our teachers earlier last semester. She'll be working again with them on February 17th in math, science, social studies, and English to look at how we look at reading in all of those content areas. Because the more and more we're seeing the growth in that and seeing that our students are getting more support there, the more success we're seeing. Thank you.
You know, Jessica, as you keep saying, this shift for students to be more inquiry-based instruction and learning, especially in math, it's difficult to get them to shift over. They expect, well, let me just learn the steps and just tell me the answer, because there's a right answer. I know in reading social, you can be a little bit more inquiry in other subject areas, but when you get to math, it's difficult for kids to shift over to being the problem solvers and inquiry, and not just sitting back and waiting for the teacher to say, here's how you do it. And so, yeah, you got to make sure we're doing it. I'm looking at that book study for building thinking in the classroom. I think that'll pay off as we go up. And it's difficult in math to get that inquiry shift.
It is, you're correct, but I think, as well, I really would love you guys to see this. Yeah. It's really beautiful to see our students, when their minds are able to expand in the classroom. It's pretty cool to watch.
That's what we need.
Yes, thank you.
And I will say, not only is it difficult for the students, but I think on the teacher side, that shift in teaching and teaching practices is also difficult because we're so used to teaching the traditional algorithms. And for me, going into a math class, when I see a student struggle, you want them to be able to struggle and think through that, but as an educator, you want to jump in right away and help and show them the
Sure.
answer. So that's even difficult for me when I go into the math classrooms.
And
to
that's
see
true,
that.
because we feel like, and sometimes even parents will say, well, but you're the teacher, why don't you just show them or tell them? And we're saying, we're stepping back so that they have time to figure it out or look at it.
To have a
little
healthy
bit.
struggle.
Yeah, it's,
Well, and as a parent with 3 kids in the district, it's like, it's a mind shift
It
as
is.
a parent with how do I help them with their math without just like following these steps and giving an answer, so.
And thank you, as an educator, to a parent for allowing them to struggle through that.
Yeah, a lot of times I can't help them, but they've somehow figured it out.
it's just hard to step back in anything we do with our kids to say, no, because we just jump in, and that's what teachers and parents do, so, yeah, it's a shift.
Yeah, it is. Okay, next up is our ELA, MAP, and EOC data. And so as we see here, our district was just about above the state average in every grade level. We did have a little bump in the road down in 5th grade that we'll talk about. But in 3rd grade, 53.8% of our students were proficient in advanced compared to the state at 41.4%. In 4th grade, it was 56.7% for proficient and advanced compared to the state that was 44.3%. In 5th grade, we were 42.1% proficient in advanced compared to the state at 44%. At 6th grade, it was 39.4% at both St. Charles and at the state level. 7th grade, 48% proficient in advanced. The state was 37.9%. 8th grade, 49.5% proficient in advanced. The state was 42.5%. And then in English 2, the state was the district was 53.5%, and the state was 53.6%. So actually, about neck and neck there as well. When we look at the classifications, we were right there as a district. So 400 is the points you need to be on target. We were 399. So we're right there at ELA to get the highest classification. We're considered on track. And then for our student group, that subgroup of students, we're 366, and that's also considered on track for ELA.
So some challenges in ELA for K-6. To be honest, K-4 is struggling to fit it all in. Their schedules, if you ever go into a classroom and see it written on the board, there's like 20 things there. We're expecting them to teach phonological awareness and phonics and reading and writing and math and science and social studies. So I do believe it is a huge shift to find the balance between the science of reading and balanced literacy, trying to keep all of those components. So that is a struggle. We're not teaching comprehension strategies in a systematic and explicit manner. That needs to be something that we start doing ASAP. So we will have some training on that this summer. There, again, are significant drops from 4th grade to 5th grade. Across the board, 3rd through 6th grade students still struggle with strategic thinking and informational writing.
Nicole, and this will probably be true for Jessica too, but when you point out how much is now in a curriculum, how much is expected of children at a grade level to do the reading, the writing, the math, and any of our classes. When we said stepping back and having the children think it through and be more inquiry-based, that takes so much more time. And it's much quicker for us to say, look, here's what we need to do, and that's not how we're teaching. So not only are we expecting to cover more and teach more, but it's hard to balance, but we got to give them time.
You do.
It's really, the teachers are really, it's a difficult balance. We're asking a lot.
We are.
Yeah.
Thank you. And actually, to that note too, and I think that this is where patience comes in, right, as educators. This is a change, but it is something that is significant in order for our students, I think, to be able to be truly successful going forward. And I think as we start to bring in more professional development for our teachers, they're going to see that those standards are going to kind of meld together more as they're allowed to have the students do more of that inquiry and research, so that they're seeing like, oh, wow, look, we've got 5 standards already covered just in one little element. So, and I think, again, that is a shift. It's going to take time, but I know we're going to get there because we're doing the work and we're putting the professional development together. And the teachers are moving forward with that. So I appreciate the fact that you see that, and I appreciate the patience, so thank you. In regards to secondary, so 7 through 12 in ELA, again, you're going to see this consistently through when I present this. I'm a stickler on making sure that everything is done with fidelity and making sure that our resources are consistent and then our classrooms are consistent, so that at St. Charles High and St. Charles West and our Success Campus, that you do have that. If it's an English 1 at St. Charles High, St. Charles West, or Success, it's going to be the same thing. It's not exactly the same thing. You want teacher art, but we are learning the same thing. We're getting that fidelity for those students. The other piece is, just to get down to the finite standards, reading and interpreting informational text. So again, it's when our students are looking at those very factual texts, when they're looking at, that's why we're bringing that specialist in again, to look at science and math and social studies and looking at how can our students read and perceive, analyze, and synthesize those more complex texts, because I think we're going to see some increases once we get some more of that and our teachers are given those skills. Thank you.
Some steps that we are going to take for improving ELA achievement. Again, we do the summer refresh with ELA as well. We get that committee together. We are going to take a deep look at our comprehension skills and best practices for teaching those, and look at our schedules and the components taught through balanced literacy. If we can make this work somehow, I think it's time we really look at that closely. We will continue to do instructional rounds with the the C&I team, the 4 of us, and have conversations with instructional coaches and principals. Providing professional development, using decodable text. We've offered summer writing institutes for our teachers. We offered a foundations refresher for K1 and 2 last summer. We have Wilson reading trainers in place right now. They're finishing up their training. So Wilson is that 3rd tier reading intervention, and they're seeing a lot of success with it. So we have those folks going through training, then they can go on and train others to use that program. And then letters cohort, I don't know what cohort we're on right now, but it's a lot. We sent last year 6 teachers through volume 1 and 17 teachers through volume 2. If you are up to date on any of the DESC mandates, this is coming our way where they want all teachers' letters trained. So we are continuing that effort in getting our teachers trained with letters. Next year, really focusing on our special education teachers, our reading specialists, our new teachers to the district. The reading interventionists and learning loss teachers are really assisting in this, moving towards the science of reading, and then having an Ed Plus consultant come to our district and help us figure out ways to improve achievement are part of our goals for next year as well.
So again, similar to what we do in secondary math, I do a very similar thing for any of the core areas that have gone through our curriculum rewrite, the curriculum refresh. So it's 3 days, and the teachers are looking at their curriculum. They're doing basically a curriculum autopsy. How did it go this previous year? And is it really meeting the needs of our students? What new practices are out there? What professional development can we gain? We also, again, review the PLT and PLCs. We look at the data that's there as well. We look at CFA and CSAs and looking at the interventions for students based on the data as well. We do have one reading interventionist at St. Charles West, and we do have one at Hardin as well. We, I believe, are looking to provide that opportunity at St. Charles High too, because that has been a wonderful support at those schools. We also have professional development through Houghton Mifflin. The one thing that I do want to point out that we're seeing in ELA, and this is another thing, I mentioned it about math, I'm going to say it about ELA too. If you look at go into those classrooms and look at those inquiry-based lessons, I believe Tina showed a picture of a teacher hosting a Romeo and Juliet trial in a library. That is fantastic. Those students lead that entire discussion. And the debate that occurs in there and the critical thinking that occurs is tremendous. So again, those are the items that we are looking to include and we have been including in ELA. Thank you.
All right. Next up, we have our science. So as you know, science is not taken across grade levels. Science is tested in 5th, 8th, and then biology. And so when we look at our science scores, as a district 5th grade, we were pretty much exactly the same as the state with 40.6% proficient in advanced. In 8th grade, the district was 43.7% proficient in advanced, and the state was 37.7. And then in biology, the district was 43.9, and the state was 35.1. Our MPI was 381.7, which means we are on track in science. And then our student group was at a 345, and they are also considered on track in science. Next slide. It's all right.
So some challenges we're having in science. As Dr. Draper stated, it's tested at 5th grade. And as I previously stated, we're having a hard time fitting it all in, right? So K4 has really struggled to teach all of their grade level science content for years, leaving our 5th grade students unprepared to take that test. We know that. We're working towards fixing that. Inconsistent content and instructional practices have been used in previous years in classrooms. We did not have a strong previous science curriculum, and the MAP is testing strategic thinking, not skill knowledge, which is a shift for our kids. So they don't give them questions based on content, it's skill-based, which is a huge shift in how we've taught science.
So as you'll see in secondary, it is our first year of implementation. And we did a shift with a 3D model because science is we now have that 3D model. So students are looking at science and looking at phenomena from various aspects. So we brought in the training for the teachers, and we are continuing to have training for the teachers, primarily right now at the 7th and 8th grades, because they have more of a program approach with HMH. So, and those teachers are doing a similar lab in every classroom as well. At this high school level, though, because we do have differing classes there, those teachers, if you go into those classrooms right now too, they are really using that 3D model. Went into one teacher's classroom, and it was physical science, and it was really great to watch the students leading those lessons and teaching each other. So that is a wonderful thing to see. And that's something that our teachers, I think at the secondary level too, have done for quite a while, but they're improving on their skills as well. So this, again, the other thing we are trying to do is ensuring those consistent practices building to building and making sure that our students are prepared when they leave 8th grade and go into 9th grade as well.
So I'm super excited to share this part with you all. I'm very hopeful, and I cannot wait to see our scores next year in science. We're implementing NGSS standards, and they're integrated into the MLS standards that we are teaching. We are implementing the MySci program and inquiry model K6 this year, and it's going so well. I surveyed the teachers that are implementing it, and I shared the survey with instructional coaches and Dr. Draper and principals today, just highlighting how much the teachers are loving it. They're teaching science, the kids are loving it, the kids are really grasping the concepts. So that was awesome to hear. This year, they've gotten professional development 4 times, specifically on science. We're continuing to do the instructional rounds and give them specific feedback. We partnered with the MySci specialist as a trainer. She came in for a full day, actually 2 days, and we went into several buildings, and she met with teams to give them feedback. We sent, I want to say 8. I wish Christy was here. Christy was part of the NGSS cohort that we sent. It was through Washington University. They gained so much knowledge about NGSS and how to teach science at deep levels. The classrooms we went into was super impressive, those teachers that went to that academy. So now we have this K-12 revised science curriculum that we're super proud of. The teachers are happy with it. They're teaching science at the K-4 levels. It's rigorous, and our expectations are high, and the units are very built on critical thinking skills and not just content knowledge. So I feel confident that our kids will be prepared in the coming years to take that 5th grade MAP test.
So at the secondary level, again, this in the first year of really implementing that 3D model. And we are seeing a lot of our teachers using that model and having, again, the students leading those conversations. And again, as you said, Dr. Towers, it is difficult as a teacher to hand over those reins. But we are seeing that in our classrooms, in the science labs especially. So that's pretty awesome to see as well. The one thing in the 7th and 8th grade too, and I would challenge you to go to those classrooms because that is where those HMH labs are being taught as well. And that is a digital forward program. So the students are basically a laptop base and then they use those peripherals as a resource only. So we also have professional development coming in for the teachers continuously, and they're going to have more professional development in March. So that will be, I think, on the 2nd, the 7th, and the 15th, I believe. And then this summer, we are going to do a curriculum refresh again with them. So just like we're doing with math, with ELA, they will have their first curriculum refresh this summer. And in this particular refresh, we're going to go ahead and talk about the 3D model as well, bring in more professional development to help coach the teachers a little further on that and to help them to share their expertise in their areas and to continue to revise the units to make sure we're having consistency again across the board. So classroom to classroom, building to building. Thank you.
And then our last area for the evening is the social studies EOC. So social studies is only tested at government in high school. And with that, our district scored 42% proficient in advanced, and the state was at 39.9%. This social studies was another one of those areas where we were just right there, where we barely missed target, which is the highest rating you can get. We were at a 397, which puts us on track, and our student group was at a 367.
So our social studies is up for rewrite right now, and we are currently looking at where we have been and where we need to go. So Nicole and myself are looking K through 12 at what we need to do to change the dynamic a little bit and make our students very successful. So we are bringing in a resource from Ed Plus, and she is very, very versed in social studies, and she's a previous principal, and she is a previous social studies teacher as well. So she's going to help us and guide that rewrite with us. The other piece that I'm doing right now is walking through and observing our social studies teachers at the 7 through 12 level, and I'm trying to get a good indicator of where their strengths are and where we can improve so that we have, again, that more inquiry-based model within the classroom. The teachers are also studying controversy in the classroom. That is a text by Dr. Hess. She is out of Wisconsin, and we brought her over the summer as well, and I think I've talked to you guys about her before. She guides classrooms to have those conversations that are a little more tricky, especially when it gets to social studies. And when you are having a more inquiry-led classroom in social studies, you're probably going to have more of those conversations. So this will help guide those conversations. The other piece, why do we have, okay, anyway, that is not, yeah, we're gonna have EOC training at Washington School District coming up for our teachers. So those government teachers are going to be able to work with their colleagues in the area districts and pick their brains about what is working and how we can improve as a district as well. So our teachers are networking, which is really important for them too. We are going to be shifting towards that 3C model of inquiry. So that's obviously different from science, but it's going to be a similar approach. They're going to be looking at different social issues from a variety of perspectives. And students will have a more hands-on approach and be able to lead those conversations. So that wraps up where we are right now. Thank you.
And so we have lots of things to celebrate as a district. Lincoln Elementary is the highest performing elementary school in 3rd and 4th grade ELA across the county. So Winsfield, Fort Zumwalt, Orchard Farm, Francis Howe, Lincoln Elementary in 3rd and 4th grade ELA was the #1 school. When it comes to math, 3rd grade, Lincoln was #2, and in 4th grade, they were #5 in math. So Lincoln continues to perform at high rates. Coverdale also scored in the top 5 out of the St. Charles County schools in 3rd grade math. St. Charles High School has shown tremendous growth this year. When we talk about those classifications of target, approaching, on track, St. Charles High School had reached target in ELA, math, and social studies. So great celebrations there. As Nicole talked about, we have a more equitable process for identifying gifted students. And then Tina's going to talk about some of our CTE certifications that has taken place over the course of the year and our celebrations with that.
So we previously had told you that we started to give certifications, the industry-recognized credentials, in both the FACS Child Development class. We did that for the first time last year, and we gave them the Educational Fundamentals, IRC, and 11 of our students passed that IRC. We continued last year with our Adobe certifications, and last year we gave the Photoshop and the Premiere Pro certifications, and we had 80 of our students pass those tests. And then at Lewis and Clark, we had 185 of our students, they're countywide, of course, but 185 of our students passed those IRCs at the end of their programs. So I just wanted to shout out to those students as well, because they're not represented necessarily on those MAP tests, but those are extra tests that they are excelling in.
Thank you. So that concludes our student achievement report. And we'll open it up for questions.
I have some questions. The data is embargoed until March of 2023 for tests that kids took
Last
in
year.
May of 2022. What is happening with the state? What is the problem? You know, when we first started taking EOC and MAP tests on computers, they were promising us results before the semester ended so that they could be counted as a part of the grade. And
That's not
do you,
happening.
yeah,
not
do you
happening.
have any idea what
So
the staffing?
The hang-up this year was MSIP 6. Now, I know every year it seems to be something, but this year the hang-up was the rollout of MSIP 6 and the scoring in particular for MSIP 6, which is why, like I said, it was originally supposed to come out in August, and then that was pushed back to December, and then it was pushed back to the end of January, and so now we've been told March.
Ellen, can I help too? So this year, we actually they are a little bit faster on getting our EOC scores back. We're getting raw scores and a proficiency level within the 10 days, but we don't have it like calculated or anything. It's just telling us, so for this year for EOCs, not last year, because this is all last year stuff, but for this year, we feel like we're gonna get the data a little bit faster. So for EOCs, at least for our fall ones that we just did administer, we already do have a proficiency level for those students who took them. So we're expecting at least to get that for our EOCs in the spring.
Okay.
A proficiency level, but not a calculation
yeah.
and all that kind of stuff is what we're waiting on.
Okay, well, and I'm hearing rumors that DESE is thinking about eliminating MAP scores altogether.
There is
Yeah,
I can't speak for DESE, obviously,
Right.
but there is a lot of conversations with different organizations, and the superintendents are, especially in the St. Louis region, are reaching out to DESE, and they're starting to listen a little bit more of what it looks like to really, hopefully have a comprehensive, because we want accountability, right? We want to be accountable, but it's almost like a game that's played through some of the SEM6 process with the attaining of numbers and scores, so.
And I will say one other thing with DESE is that they are also feeling the shortage of staff, just like everyone else. There are so many vacancies at DESE, and when you call, there's people who no longer work there, and so that plays into the delays as well.
well, and I've always been skeptical of the value of standardized tests to measure learning. So what metrics what tests are we currently giving that you feel are a good measurement of student learning, like 8th grade reading tests or the Galileo math test?
So we have a benchmark testing system that we use. It's funny you should mention that because we had an assessment committee meeting yesterday, and we're meeting again next week to talk about our benchmarking system. And so our benchmark is given 4 times a year at the elementary level, 3 times a year at secondary level. And so that looks at student growth throughout the year. So they are essentially administered a pre-assessment at the beginning of the year, and then they test multiple times throughout the year to give us a accurate picture of how they are growing and progressing and mastering the expected learning targets that the state wants them to learn. But as with any system, there are some hiccups, and there are some hiccups that we're trying to work through right now which is why we convened the assessment committee, because some of the times they are tested over materials that the teachers just haven't taught yet. And so that's out of our control because it is kind of a state norm test, if you will. And so those are things that we're working through. But right now, I would say Galileo for sure. We also have several screeners. I don't know, Nicole, you want to talk about some of the screeners? We also have SRI that we give at the secondary level. SRI gives us students' reading levels. So we know exactly what level our students are reading at the secondary level. And we are working with this, as Nicole kind of hinted at, the state is going to be really pushing out some literacy laws and things like that. And so as we work towards that, we need to have a more defined plan for students who aren't reading on grade level, and those are some of the things that we're working on. But any other assessments that you all want to talk about that we give? I know SRI at the secondary level, and then we have several screeners that we give at elementary.
We're data rich at the elementary level is what we
Yes.
call it. Yeah, we have district assessments that we give our students, and our teachers track it on a spreadsheet that's looked at our data team meetings every month to determine what kids fall into interventions and what kids have made enough progress and growth that they can come out. We use the Fountas and Pinnell benchmarking system at grades 2 through 6 to determine proficiency and reading levels. That data is shared with the C&I team every year too, so we can measure growth. So we have I can't even list them all right now for you, but we have a lot.
Well, how well do the marking systems correlate to the MAP scores and
Great
EOC
question as well, because
scores?
we just talked about that yesterday. I wish we had the actual chart to show you.
Yeah,
but go
we,
ahead, Tina.
we just shared that with our elementary principals yesterday, and the Galileo program, they did a forecast report that showed what they did on the MAP test versus what they did on that last Galileo benchmark last year, and it did predict, they had always told us it was going to be about an 80% accuracy prediction. In some of the grade levels, it was over 90% accurate. I think the lowest was maybe an 83% accuracy. So as they are doing that benchmarking, that is a good predictor of MAP performance, and to figure out which students are the high-risk students so that they can try to intervene. They take that last benchmark. Well, right now, they're taking one now, which is the third one, and then they'll take one again I think it's right after spring break, and that will be their last one or it might be before spring break. But then that one will be their last one, and then when they take that MAP test in May, those are the two that they look at, and it does give a very good prediction.
So what I'm hearing is, if they should decide to eliminate MAP and EOC tests, you would have a reliable way to relate the student achievement to the board.
Yes, we have a lot of data that we can share with the board if they do eliminate any type of state testing, yes.
Honestly, that benchmark and this kinds of information gathering, I'm not going to call it testing, this kind of information gathering is more useful to adjusting our instruction and making sure each child is progressing, as opposed to the one-shot MAP test. And then, to me, I know we say all schools need to be accountable, but those numbers shift and change, and that number really is not as meaningful as what districts internally are doing with their testing and measurements.
But that's the key. If your assessment, CFAs, whatever we're doing in our PLCs, as well as our benchmarking, if that's not changing the course of our instruction, then why are we assessing?
Yeah,
right? I mean, that's the whole process, and that's response and intervention.
It is. It is.
I've been graphing the percent proficient and advanced from the years 2018 to the current, I got the numbers off the DESE website. And I noticed there was a big crash in every test in 5th grade. And I refuse to believe that the curriculum and pedagogy in 5th grade is any worse or significantly worse than in 4th grade.
We have actually had some very outstanding 5th grade teachers. To be
Right,
honest
right,
with you.
right, yeah.
We really do.
So-
We really do have
In
really
6th grade,
good
but
fifth
they're
grade teachers.
outstanding in 5th grade.
Have you looked at comparing our model of K through 4 elementary schools and the intermediate school and the junior high with K through 6 or K through 8?
So a couple of things. So one, I will say this, if you look at the state comparison of 5th grade data, so if you align the state's data and our 5th grade data,
Yeah.
it is
Exactly
the same. So
Yeah, and
it tanks in, I shouldn't say use the word tank, but it drops
Yeah.
in 5th grade, right?
Right.
And so that is telling in itself, because a couple of years ago, the assessment changed, and for whatever reason, in 5th grade, it has changed and has not really rebounded since the change in assessment. But then also, I think we recognize that transition is a tough transition for kiddos, going from 4th, where they're in their smaller home schools, and then going to Jefferson, which is a larger building. We have not necessarily looked at a K-8 model or a K-6 model, but we have had discussions as a district on how do we better support that transition? What does that transition look like? We've had some conversations on what does, potentially down the road, moving to 5th grade back, what does that look like? Right now, we've been having some really good conversations with Amanda Denson, who's the new principal over there. She has some great ideas, and so we want to, see some of her ideas, and if we begin to treat the 5th graders more like a more elementary model, but then 6th grade, we begin to really shift towards a middle school model. Those are all conversations that we're having and that we're looking into in order to help with that transition. Because we recognize as a district, I mean, it's glaring that we need assistance at 5th grade. That's where it's dropping.
And that's highlighted as we looked at it, 2 months ago in our CSIP plan, in the governance part. So great question on your part, looking at those transitions. So.
Could I also add, 5th grade this year in particular, in K2, we really focus on teaching kids how to read. 3 and up, we teach them, they're reading to learn. Those kiddos were at home learning virtually in 3rd grade and 4th grade. So they're going to have some gaps, and we completely suspected that was going to happen. They missed a lot of learning during the extended closure. So, yeah.
But I think it was interesting, Earl, when you said 5th grade across the state,
Across the state.
we align, so no matter what the configuration is in other districts or even our district, 5th grade is a tough, for some reason, is a tough time. And I'm seeing, I think kids at 5th grade maybe are also hitting changes more at 5th grade, whether they're at a 5th, 6th center or they're wherever they are. That used to be seen when they were like 7th grade. But I think kids are, I don't mean they're maturing quicker, but our whole society, 5th grade, it's kind of hitting out of 5th grade, but across the state, whatever configuration we have, that might be another aspect that we have to look at.
No, I meant that we're significantly above the state in like 3rd grade language arts. But when we get to 5th grade,
We're right there with the
we're
state.
down
Right.
to the state level,
Yeah.
But
you know, and
Yep, I
it-
understand
you know.
We've talked and looked at the structure a lot, especially since in CSIP, and I think three things come in mind for me is, you're gonna have transitions, right? And there are gonna be some transitions. So one, when do you wanna have that first transition? Is it a big difference between fourth and fifth or fifth and sixth? That's one. Two, how many transitions do you want to have, right? And then three, to me, you would look at making a structure if you feel like in a building, you really want to expand to have kids in buildings for more than 2 years. That's because what we hear from Jefferson or even Hardin is we get them in, we get them out. And we don't really get to know them. So what does that look like? And then the fourth piece, as I said, those are the three things set up the fourth, and that's probably the most important thing is just logistically of your facilities and what that looks like. But it's all great questions and things that we're continue to have conversations about.
We are.
But I'm really excited. I tell you, not that we haven't had a great principal at Jefferson for several years, but we've.
I was waiting for that. Thank you. Thank you.
But last year, there was an opportunity for us because of retirements or people moving on to bigger and better jobs, I don't know about better, but bigger jobs. We were able to elevate some people in our district, but also bring in some new ideas and some new people. And that has really been refreshing to see. And I'm excited to see, I'm not putting it all on those leaders' shoulders.
Right.
It's our staff who get the job done. But we've got some really neat things that we're working on, so.
Sorry, you have one? I have one question about graduation rate stuff. When we talk about the things that we're putting in place now and the stuff that we're doing for it and the recognition of what the number is, what it is, how long do you think it's going to take until we see that stuff make an impact on our graduation rate when we look at it from data?
I'm hoping that we will see that change this year because we have so many more students who are taking advantage of success as an alternative program and not just a place for credit recovery. I'm hoping that we're going to see that change this year.
Is doing it, I guess, with this updated way more in line with what some of the other school
Yes.
districts are doing? And that was, okay, you already answered my follow-up question.
That's the whole,
The
not
whole
that
point,
we're,
yeah.
not that we're relying all on success,
Sure.
but that whole alternative process of going from just having credit recovery. And the teachers were doing great things
Sure,
at Success, but
sure.
it was just over there and getting credit recovery. Now there's more instruction, there's just more support, and they're there for, and the great thing is we didn't put clamps on it. We're letting Brett and his group, if it's a half day or, because that's what the RTI is, right? If they can still be in their homeschool, we want them in the homeschool. And then we feel like to create some more space, we were able to put a lot of those kiddos that might just need a credit recovery one class, they're not over Success for a whole half day either. They're back in their home school. So I hope to see some great gains from that.
I do too, and I know our building principal over there, Brett, he is a part of National Alternative Education cohort. They meet monthly. He's out working with the principal at, Zumwalt's Alternative School, Parkway's Alternative School. So there's a lot of collaboration happening, and we're seeing kind of consistent programming with our success program with others.
And I also will tell you this, when we see M-6 and we see some of these scores and we're bracing ourselves, everybody's bracing for lower scores to start off with. I can tell you, and I hate to say the word game, but the scoring system, there's a strategic play to that.
Yeah.
There just is. And to be honest with you, there's bigger school districts, a little bit more, not resources, because I feel like we've got great resources in our school district that have some specific people who scrub data, that look, and I'm not saying that anybody's doing anything wrong, but they're very more strategic, a lot more strategic than we are in terms of what that looks like gaining those points. And I can tell you, as we're bracing for a lower score this time around with M-6, we're gonna be looking at how strategic we can get in terms of what that looks like. There's just a strategic plan to it.
Yep.
Attendance, how do we do attendance across the board? How do we look at graduation rate when kids leave and stay and those type of things? So and I will say this, with the people in this room and the people who are running our curriculum instruction and what our kids are doing and what our staff are doing every day, we have the structures and the instructional processes in place. People take our stuff.
Yeah.
CSIP's a big deal, guys, and districts have asked to see our CSIP. So we have in place, if we totally own our processes, if we fully own what we're doing, and we get a little bit more strategic with what that looks like on the MSIP 6, we're gonna see those higher scores. That's the bottom line. And the people who get it done are our staff every day, so.
Thanks.
We got work to do, that's for sure, but we're excited about where we're at.
And it's good work to do. Hard work, but it's good.
Okay, do I have a motion to approve the student achievement report as presented?
I second.
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? All right, thank you.
Can we
That
give
was
those ladies a
that
quick
was-
hand? They did a great job. Excellent job, ladies. You too, Earl.
Okay, under new business policy, item 8.01, we had quite a few policy reviews. No, I'm sorry. Did I skip one? No, yeah, my computer didn't know. Thank you. So this is a first reading. If you looked them over, or you had any questions over any of them in preparation for next month when we want to approve these policy changes, I'm going to throw in very quickly, the BDDF. In that one, it talks about, now I forgot where I wrote it down, but it talks
a vote.
about how we can ensure that our audience sees and they use the word observe, how members vote during our open session. If our mics aren't on, they may not hear that all of you say aye, although they can tell if someone, right now, everything was aye, there weren't any nays. But doing that kind of verbal, I don't know, in the policy for BDDF, I noticed they used the word, how can the audience observe how each of you vote? So we may have to put in a language that says, if we say, all those in favor say aye, that you also maybe do a show of hand or do something. Yeah, I mean, that's the easiest thing, but it's a minor thing, but it did say you have to be able to ensure that they can see how each of you vote. So, I don't know if, and we can implement it that way if, from now on, when I say all those in favor say aye, then just, yeah, aye. If that's all right? Okay,
You technically don't have to do it until
yeah.
in 2 months, in another month.
We need to change the wording
That
essentially.
was just a joke. And just,
Well,
just a reminder too, when you see all these policies, it's not that we wait and send them to you. This is when kind of typically MSBA sends us a lot of lists of them, so you'll see a lot more next month too. Sorry, go ahead.
I don't know if we have to change the wording in that policy, but how we implement it to ensure that it's observable. We can simply keep doing what we're doing and just hold up your hand. All right, any other indication? I don't, holding up your hand won't work. So this was just first reading, and we will vote on that next month. Item 8.02, these are resolutions, and I think, Jeremy, are you?
I can do the
Oh,
first
you
one,
have
is
the
it
first
open
one.
enrollment? Just so you're aware, we've talked a little bit about legislation sessions going on right now, and I've kept you guys updated with sending you important updates from our MASA group as well from DESE. And we just have to be aware that there are a lot of legislation bills out there right now that have language in there about open enrollment. And we, as a board and as a district, we want to be very cautious of what that legislation looks like. Just obvious points are, if we go to an open enrollment situation, I think that the rhetoric is, oh, that's good because it's competitive. You're just going to see it's just not going to be good for a district like ours in terms of the size. Because I tell you, where we sit, we're the first school in St. Charles County, and we have a lot of families that want to come across the river, which are wonderful families, but want to stay where they're at and come to our school district, which is great. But right now, the way we have our policies written in our residency policy, and then what we get for a tax base, that's an issue. And so we just have to be careful what that looks like. And then as a smaller district versus some of these bigger districts, we lose some kids, what does that look like as well? So there's a lot of, as you're paying attention, and I would just say that to the public too, as you're looking at the new pending bills, there's a lot of language in different bills about open enrollment, and I thought it was important for us, or for you as a board, to understand that and make sure that there is a resolution that can be signed that just says, obviously, we're against what that looks like for public education.
Besides, we, as a board, any board, how can you make decisions and make plans, financial plans, or any other, when you never know how your enrollment might change? It's going to be too, I don't know, Wild West out there. Just, I'm opposed to it, so I understand. Can we make a motion to approve this resolution opposing the legislation regarding open enrollment? Lori, is there a second?
I second.
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Some of us did.
They're already doing it.
Yeah, we did it. We're practicing. Opposed? All right, so that motion does pass.
Thank you.
Then we have the MOCAT resolution. I jumped too quick, and so that's Jeremy.
Yes, that is. Thank you. Right now, we have, as far as investment goes with bond investments, we use, typically there had only been one investment agency in the state of Missouri called MOSIP. And you guys will see that on the financial report every month, that we do have some funds in there, specifically our bond funds. Smart to put it in those. MOSIP operates just like any other agency, although it had previously been the only one, under a very strict and conservative statute by the state of Missouri. And what's unique about MOSIP was it was the only one. So they had the market on all public entities and any funding that needed to be invested. MOCAT has since come on board, and it's been around for a little bit of time, but we've been having some conversations with them. So I wanted to at least bring this to the board's attention, specifically for a few reasons. One, I think we need some more competition with our partners for investment. Not saying that we would use MOCAT or anything along those lines, but I think competition is good. And it also, when we're getting ready to go out for a new banking agreement this year, it's good for our bank to know that there is another competitive partner when they take all of our funds. We want to make sure that we're getting the most bang for our buck in a very safe way. So what I mean by that is the statute does not allow for any public entity in the state of Missouri to invest recklessly. It's always with U.S. Treasuries. It's backed by the United States government. So it's very safe. What comes into play, though, is how much capital do those firms take in so that you can then get the best interest rate back for the money that you're investing. So that's kind of what we're looking at here with this MOCAT. The thing I like about MOCAT and how they've brought some of this to our table, at least in my conversation, is there is no guarantee requirement. There is no cost for us to have a resolution. It is just allows us to consider them like we have MOSIP right now. The thing that I think is most appealing to myself right now is there's two individuals connected with MOCAT that have 40 years of school financial experience between both of them, and they bring a unique service component. The second thing that I like about it is cash flow analysis is free. And that's not something that we've typically had within our school district, where an outside agency, either MOSIP or our bank, will look at our cash flow and present an analysis to us to say what is desired outcome when it comes to investment for the district. So that is completely free as well. So it is very much a service model with no cost associated with it. When I spoke about this with another group, they said, it sounds too good to be true. There's got to be a caveat to it. And I would say There's not, just like there isn't with MOSIP, which we present each month. However, it is a business, and they're trying to make money off public entities. So right now, MOCAT has about $800 million within their agency that they have invested. It's about 100, I just found out, it used to be 120, it's 135 school districts right now that use MOCAT. Again, no, not saying that we would use them as a district. This just authorizes the district and the board to use MOCAT like we use MOSIP. I should have said also, my apologies, the cash flow analysis is important if we ever want to consider investing any of our operating funds, which we don't currently do. Our funds just sit in the bank.
So this resolution is only authorizing you to bring in a second MOCAT, like MOSIP, that you could consider and use, but we're not, this is just authorizing you to add that to our arsenal of
Correct.
the two.
Correct.
Okay, the what? To our repertoire, that's
I move to approve the resolution authorizing participation in MOCAT as presented.
all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Thank you. That resolution passes. Item 8.04 is our calendar revision. We'll talk about our snow day.
So, as I mentioned in my comments earlier this evening, we talked about how we've had an AMI day and we've had a traditional snow day, and just a quick recap of why or how we came up with that and what kind of transpired was we were able, and we've said this in communication for the last couple of years with our parents. First of all, I want to say our staff and our kids have done a great job with our AMI days. The thought is we're going to use AMI days to hopefully not to have to go. The way our calendar sits right now is if we have a traditional snow day, we have to make it up by the end of the year, so we try to use our AMI days. We've also said, though, very clearly, though, if we cannot set up or plan for an AMI day, and we have like we did an ice storm on Sunday afternoon, we didn't know it was coming, or evening, then we would have a snow day. Now, I won't get into too much of the weeds with you, because different districts do different things, but our belief is that if we're going to count a day as a learning day, we truly feel like we need to at least be connecting with our kids via, on the virtual devices, and not just send home packets. But they can work on packets, there's things to do, and I think we've come up with a really good balanced plan with our staff and our students of understanding that we connect, we have hopefully a pretty productive learning experience, and then we can enjoy the rest of our day and it's not school for 8 hours or 7 hours. Now, saying that, to be able to do that, we have to have all of our kids to take home their laptops and their Chromebooks. Our K through 4 do not take them home every night. We are one-to-one. That's also pretty cool, because not every district's that way. So we don't send them home every time or every night because they're heavy, they're bulky, and they don't use them like our 6th through 12th grade does. So saying that, we will bring them home when we need to prepare for an AMI day. The first AMI day, well, unfortunately, it was like supposed to be snow Armageddon, and it was basically slushy out. And I actually called that, didn't I? But anyway, so we had our AMI day, it was great. Then we get into that Friday before the Sunday storm. I checked the weather, and at that point, it was supposed to be a light dusting of something like Sunday morning, and then it was supposed to come in Monday night. So I thought, you know what, I'm not gonna have everybody take it. And let me just say this. Early on, we took everything home and didn't have anything, and certainly I heard about that. So I'm always cautious of what we're doing, so I try not to make it a huge deal of taking everything home. So obviously, we had the ice storm, we had to call a snow day. So now we're sitting in a day that we'd have to make up. My thought is this. We have, the state minimum amount of hours is 1044. We sit at 1079 as K through 8, 9 through 12, 1082.5. And there's a difference because of early outs and the scheduling. So my thought is, just like we use the 2 days to get to our 2 weeks, what I'm asking is that we forgive that day so that we don't go out after Memorial Day. And the reason why is going after Memorial Day is not very productive. So I don't want anybody thinking, oh, Jason just wants us to do a less day, and our teachers are working hard. We've obviously had a great presentation tonight. Our kids are working hard, and I would love to see us get that day out of there so then we don't have to go after more. Now, we're gonna do the best we can, not to have any more of these days, but it could still happen the way we do it, and then we'll go from there. So, that's the proposal on the table tonight.
I think this forgiveness of this snow day that we're talking about also makes sense because right now, parents look at our calendar, and our last day is May 27th, May 27th.
I think it's that Friday before.
And so they make plans. So to extend, and we've done it in the past, but when you have to start extending those days, kids are already geared up with, I've had all my tests, it's difficult for teachers to keep them all engaged, and they're thinking, my grades are done, all of that kind of stuff. Plus, parents then are scrambling to readjust plans that they had made, thinking school was out on the 27th. So I think we have the days to give. I mean, we have that leeway in the calendar right now that it makes sense to go ahead and forgive that snow day and then go ahead and plan on AMI days when we can do them.
And one might be asking, if we have these extra days, why don't we use them already? It's just the way our schedule and our contract has been set up for years and years and years. However, we have thought about getting the district committee back together. We've talked to the unions about this already, and looking at what we can do with the extra hours and maybe be able to set up where we can have a couple of snow days built in, get the 2 weeks that we want on winter break so we're not coming back to all of you, and just re-looking at that. Just so everybody knows, our calendar committee that is run by our wonderful Dr. Lewis down there, and he loves that committee, don't you? You do.
It's one of his favorite things.
That will get together in the fall for the next 2 years. We already have our calendar ready for next year. However, as you all already know, because I've already let you know, that we're looking at getting the calendar committee together this spring to see if we can iron some of these things out as we move forward and make it the best we can for our staff and our students. So that's my thought.
Yeah,
I would think so, yes.
I would make-
I would ask for an approval of it,
Can I
because
have-
it's coming from you all.
Yeah, can I have a motion?
I make a motion that we forgive the snow day.
Do I have a second? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That passes.
You can clap for that if you like to.
Okay, item 9.01 is our district financial report that we look forward to.
All right, Chris, if you don't mind clicking on that first one that says board reports, please, and scroll down to the bottom. All right, so right there, you guys will see what the local revenue is on that top line under Fund 1 and Fund 2. Those are the most crucial areas for us in our fund balance. In the month of January, we ended up pulling in about right around $25 million in revenue. And again, that's expected because of how the taxes are paid. So you see where we're sitting at there for total revenue right now, just for local, which is good news. We're about 8 million, 7.2 million away from where we're targeting for that, which will come in between now and June, more than likely. But obviously, will be some late payments that will continue on, or we may not get, just due to how people pay their taxes. So we have that. The other things, county revenue should grow. If trending, and I'm being very conservative, between now and June should be about 700,000. State revenue should be about another 7.5 million on there. Federal will be about 2.8 million, and then for sales will be just conservative about $1 million there. So between now and June, when that fund balance truly matters, we're looking at an additional, and I'm being conservative, probably about another $20 million in revenue that we would have rolling in. And that's on top of the 26.6 that you see below there. So you see that fund balance of 50.35. That's actually counted against what we've currently spent. We projected on this budget to spend 84 point and some odd million dollars. So we're about a 32 million away from that, still in expenditures, but knowing we have another 20 million coming in. So if I were to just take that 26 million, and compare that to that 84 debt ratio, we'd be sitting at about a true 30.9 right now for a fund balance, knowing that we still have some coming in and 32 million going out, right?
Right.
So that's how the projections are currently shaking out. Honestly, it puts us in a very similar pattern to what we were with spending in the previous year. So we'll be quite all right with that as it sits right now. So I think that was important to note as we got the bulk of our money back in for this financial period. So do you have any questions on that? Okay. Chris, if you wouldn't mind going to the resolution of the Lewis and Clark home. So good news is, as I think you've been updated, the Lewis and Clark home did sell. We have a buyer, let's put it that way. But obviously, we need to bring this to you all so you can allow that sale to occur. It is projected with a closing date towards the end of this month. 23rd. So we just need the board to provide that resolution so we can make that happen. It was a good sale for the district. Put it that way. It was a good sale. It was definitely met its asking price.
Lewis and Clark students just do an unbelievable job.
It's a
Those
phenomenal
teachers.
home. It's a phenomenal home. Really, it is.
It is. And so when you are approving the financial report, that will be included in it.
Absolutely.
So we can just do the
And
one
then,
motion?
and just so you know that you're basically what you're doing is give me the ability.
Authority to sign.
And you can already do that, but we always do it for here too. So I send all the paperwork for it, go to the title company.
Well, then, do I have a motion to approve the district financial report as presented?
I move to approve the district financial report as presented.
All those in favor? Aye? Opposed? All right, the financial report is approved. Do I have a motion to close our open session?
I make a motion to adjourn open session.
Do I have a second? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We are adjourned from open session. We are reconvening into closed session.